火が胸を刺すなら言葉よりもっと強い響きが今聞こえるか深追いしすぎた眩しさが悪い夢に続いても繋いだ魂の火が胸を刺すなら言葉よりもっと強い響きが今聞こえるか出会ったわけはどうだって引きつけられて触れた瞬間の傷の分だけ確かになれる
Elden Ring is a game. It's a really good game. In fact, it's so good, it contends with the best games of all time. Of course, while this is brilliant, I like Bloodborne. It is the most multifaceted fantasy RPG experience since the 15th release of Skyrim. You can explore damn near the whole map as any traditional archetype and still be served the entire juicy platter. Though I do have my gripes about the boss design. That being the overabundance of attack timing variation, creating a song without rhythm, and the incessant fiery explosions. But the cutscenes, my fuck. I can't think of a single game with such consistently swagtastic cutscenes, especially in the endgame. The coolest, of course, is Fire Giant, making him de facto the best boss in the game. I wanted to make this video about Fire Giant, but Scumnut got there first, so I instead went for the second best cutscene and thus the second best boss, which is Rasklart, Lord of Bomba. In hindsight, I should have used the Snake Eater intro for this video, because the Snake ate Rykard, but he kind of ate it back. I was also going to use Hunting for Your Dream for this video's intro, but I realized I'd be missing the perfect opportunity for the eventual Bloodborne run. Metal Gear Rising Feet Only challenge comes first though. I spent 26 minutes in this character creator because I wanted to make myself for once, because I'm gonna need that power. In Scumnut's video, he got stuck at Stormveil. Of all the people to give up on a run. It doesn't bode well for me. In all honesty, this run broke me in ways I'd never considered. Before we start, the rules are as follows. I have to pick Deprived. I can only level Strength. And no armor, of course. On top of that, I decided that I'm only allowed to use the Serpent Hunter to beat bosses. How the fuck I was going to get it, I have no idea. The implications would be somehow getting past Stormveil, somehow getting into Altus, somehow beating the Godskin Noble without Serpent Hunter at Volcano Manor and picking up the Serpent Hunter at the Rykard fight. Or it could simply be given to me right off the bat. Even better, the moveset works during this fight. Granted, I get destroyed because I have by now forgotten Rykard's moveset, and while the oligarchy has nipped my ambitions at the bud, I will uproot the status quo, even if it means giving up my sanity. Small lore tidbit, but I've never fought Soldier of Godric, because I'm a feeble-minded oaf who just follows bright objects. So I decided that I would start off the run by fighting him first. Trouble is, I forgot to pay my rent, meaning the tutorial enemies have been turned into 1000 PSI corporeal enemas. Needless to say, I fucked up. Badly. But surely some patience is all I need to make it past, right? Nay, motherfucker. Not only did I not know the moveset, but it's been merged within the walls of this colon-esque cave. I do occasionally get lucky and slide past when Rykard hits me with a teabag, but it simultaneously accelerates and prolongs the suffering. Oh, and I can't escape because the only way out is through them. So I restart the run, and think of an even less funny name, thankfully having saved my character preset for later use. Sadly, I get prone-boned by the tutorial boss again, but this time spare myself from the family gathering downstairs. Instead, I elect to eat my dinner upstairs, where I am followed and realize that the moveset still works, even in the outside world. Times are desperate, it seems, as the 1% has been leached by the 0.1%. And they let me know by inhaling the contents of my rectum. Because I suck, the moveset has now disappeared, and I am just swinging around a piece of shit for the rest of my life. Traversal of Stormveil isn't terrible, since everything is out in the open. It's just that the neon diarrhea is costing me framerate and retinal integrity. Melina gives me the keys to her ride, and I make for Stormveil, past where the troll would be. Sweet. Yeah, that isn't going to happen. They take, and they take. And that also applies to my poor computer. I am fairly confident that the Dark Souls 2 run caused permanent damage to my PC, because nowadays it runs at a balmy 200 degrees Celsius. I, along with my trusty steed, crash our way to Stormhill Shack, at a rate of 10 crashes per minute. I'll keep a counter, but I should also mention that my playtime is more or less doubled, since the crashes don't save in-game time. Because of the constant crashing, I have to take a long-winded and annoying route to progress, as can be seen on this map. It is far from easy, but only 20 minutes into the run and we've made it to Stormveil, with Margit awaiting us. As I suspected, the real moveset works just fine for bosses, but only for when there is a fog door. It didn't work for Tree Sentinel, for example. And this too is far from easy, but all I need in this sort of situation is to enact the first human ability, to learn. It takes getting used to, but I am aided by the slant of the arena, which seemingly makes me impervious to most attacks. The first real boss fight is under my belt, as are my nuts and the talisman pouch, which will be useless. But what can you do? So far it's been kinda painful, but more than doable. I may not have enough content for a video here. My frame rate puckers as I approach the gate. I really had no idea what was coming, did I? Gostock may be a piece of shit, but holy fuck, if I had killed him here I would have cried. The gate doesn't work, so we go around. Easy enough. Then I come across it. The side entrance. Sure, the majority of enemies just front flip off the scaffolding, but all it takes is a single one to piss on my parade. A single droplet of neon diarrhea knocks me into the void, setting precedent. The main problem here is what is called Rykard's Rancor, which are these flying skulls. I became religious upon learning that he also has a Rancor Storm, which he for unknown reasons never used. It's essentially a flying skull that is followed by a bullshit donut explosion and lasts like 20 minutes. The problem is that it goes through everything. It goes through enemies, it goes through walls, it goes through fog doors, it goes through bonfires, it even goes through fucking loading screens. The only thing that can be done if it occurs is to either destroy my PC or wait for it to dissipate, which at this point requires my full attention. The process went like this. Run up the scaffold, run back, and get everything to fall off the edge. A very convenient thing about the skulls is that they dissipate when something dies, even if it was a different Rykard. Once they're dead, I have to deal with the bouncer. My damage was so piss poor and my skills so lackluster at this point that I had no idea how to address it. 9 out of every 10 attempts resulted in falling off, and the other one would see me smushed to death. At some point I tried leveling up with Melina, but I can't do that either because the skulls keep going through the resting animation. With some ball pain I managed to make it to the round table hold, the only area in the game with normal frame rate and no screen shake. While I'm here I take part in a slight vulgarity, but what can I do? To switch up the pace a bit I fight what should have been Alberich, but was instead replaced by some pleb with a shit moveset. I feel slightly nauseous at this point because literally everything I've done has been a step backward, where I spent 30 minutes trying to secure a single bonfire just south of Lake Aigil. Another peculiarity of game crushes. It seems to pick and choose whenever my progress is saved, but at the best of times it's about 10 seconds, and at the worst of times it's like 5 minutes. Limgrave as a whole is essentially unplayable because of the abundance of enemies, loading areas, and view distance. I give up on that endeavor and instead head on to Calid for literally anything except my immediate responsibilities. Again, an invader is randomized and creams me to death, but the Smoldering Church is a highly coveted, safe bonfire. One of very few sparing respawn points that doesn't pop my eardrums. Of course Calid is no better, and possibly even worse due to the scaling. Yes, I scaled the enemies because I am extremely stupid. However, there is sufficient openness to slowly make my way to the Divine Tower, which is mostly safe from harm and mostly safe from crashes, but what I'm really after is the Somber Smithing Stone, because one day I will need to upgrade my weapon. I didn't realize it at the time, but this would become the best farming spot in the game. Since I was here, I went for the Dectus Medallion, but, well, yeah. It's time to address the cattle in the corner. Another lore drop, but in my first playthrough I didn't fight Godric until after I fought Morgoth, because I went around the secret cliffside passage. This was my last remaining hope, because the left entrance was just upsettingly awful. Besides the disturbing amount of trash on my screen, which is pretty poor even by Elden Ring standards, there are a total of 10 Rykards that need chopping down. This is not including the swarm just behind the bridge. The first one is insanely awkward to fight, as it is on this stupid platform, but it's heavenly compared to where the rest are. And while I'm on this slope that aids in my assault, there are still ass crashes and flying skulls and whatever his pants shitting maneuver is called. Can I just get one nice thing? It only crashes once or twice and I die horribly, but it's a hell of a lot more appealing than Stormveil is right now. What I need, though, is some preparation. I need to get more golden seeds, sacred tears, and the physic flask. Trying to get to this Church of Marika increased the temperature in my room by about 15 degrees Celsius on its own, but I acquire the only sacred tear I will ever need, since I am not leveling health. Let me reiterate that I am only leveling strength. I head toward Garank to get another golden seed and crash my game another few times trying to get the other golden seed by Stormhill Shack and another by the beginning. Celia also has a seed, and there's another by the swamp. I might as well check out Castle Redmane since I'm in the area, but yeah, I now have 6 flasks and a physic, so you know what? I'm gonna try the left entrance. I run up, I run back, toss and turn, and take my shots when they open up. I barely avoid falling off over and over, and get some unlucky draws with this Rancor and the slam attack, which is called Taker's Fire, but this magnate has taken enough. For 20 minutes I go back and forth, whittling the beast down to size, and eventually... this can't stop me. Nothing will. I won't just figuratively bash my head against this wall until it breaks, and I will keep going for as long as it takes. Over and over, and over, and over, and then... oh no. There's another. And another. And what sounds like a whole swarm of them on the other side. Please. I couldn't believe it. All of that. And for what, exactly? With my illusion of choice on full display, I pick up my pet brick and begin chewing on it. So apparently you can just open the gates to Stormveil by asking nicely. Yeah, you can just ask to open them. So pretty much all of my suffering was for precisely naught, though it crashes immediately, meaning I will have to kill all of these guys. That being 26, just in this one room. Yeah, fuck that. Something I learned about how the game crashes is that it happens when I'm looking up. So what if I just kept looking down? Call me genius and slap my nuts, it works brilliantly. Granted, I will now have to learn how to traverse this area by only looking down. But the fact that this is my preferred option kind of says it all, doesn't it? Side note, I had no idea that I could turn off auto-rotation of my camera, which was crashing my game every time a wall or a death flipped my camera. To everyone's surprise, it doesn't work at all. But I have another idea. I can just bait them all outside and run through them with ease. Yeah, not a hope. But that gives me an even better, or perhaps even worse, idea. So far, I've learned that Rykard takes fall damage, and there's an enormous cliff right behind me. The first step is to, while looking down the whole time, aggro as many Rykards as possible, and run back out the gate. Now I do my best to survive the onslaught of Rancor skulls while they snail their way to me. That is, if they would stay aggroed to me. While annoying at first, I realize that this is a perfect way to organize them in orderly fashion to become lemmings, which makes me the Disney Channel directors, forcing them off. They remain idle until I touch a certain plane, which happens to change depending on their location, but tends to be right where this brick is. If I did it correctly, they all fall off sequentially, and I can go set up the next few. Of course, I died a lot. Like, way too much. On this try, I use my secret KGB abilities and get 14 of my political opponents to slip out a first floor window. Of course, though, I died again. So another 40 minutes of attempts later, and I only just cop the fact that I've trained myself to avoid the skulls without much use of my neocortex. By now, I was able to subconsciously avoid the parabola of the attack animation by putting myself in the center of the curve, so to say, making me immune until it dissipates. This falls apart when there are multiple, but the same theory can be applied in handfuls. Back to where we were. I aggro the remaining Rykards in the courtyard, and watch them all fall off one by one, pair by pair, etc. They get caught in the doorway, which helps me to stagger them, but an interesting mechanic is that they can only be let through when I look away. This is caused by collision unloading and allowing them to move through. I have some extra souls from the last attempt, but I've killed 23 of 26 in here, and I'm utterly apathetic to my surroundings at this point. Or, as I like to call it, baseline. Then I see it. Or, well, I see something. I didn't know what the hell it was at the time, but it looked like the way forward. Finally, after a total of 3 hours here, almost one of which was just a single attempt, I made a step forward. I finally made progress. I finally made it to the Divine Tower. But this isn't a bad thing, really. After consulting a map of Stormveil, I now know that it is far closer to the actual progression route, with only a few enemies at most blocking the door. Again, I have to do it completely blind, and I slowly have to build up a mental map by the only way I know how, and that is failing repeatedly. Actually, I usually learn pretty quickly, so this was pretty embarrassing. In any case, I have to beeline it to the archway that is guarded by a cheeked up trio. The bad part is that there is no way in hell I'm killing these guys in this position. I have to rely on RNG to get me through. So once I learned how to mole my way to the door, I had to then capitalize on RNG to give me 3 simultaneous ass crashes, which would allow me to squeeze underneath. Over and over, I fail. Over and over, I learn. The whole time, I am enacting the second human ability, sweating, and my chair is drenched in what can only be described as slime. But then I fucking make it through. I go up the stairs. My heart is racing, but another Gyat blocks my passage. Nay, several Gyats. Struth, it shan't be a dozen Gyats. Before my fate grabs me by the perineum, I am saved by the bell. Or Am I? Because last I checked, the best save state I can get from a crash is 10 seconds. So no, the bell didn't save shit. Didn't save my game anyway. This development cracks my psyche, and I enter a fugue state of repeatedly dying on the staircase. Upon waking up, I try to empty the room again to see if there is any way to progress. No, I don't remember the layout of Stormveil, and I don't understand how maps work. I thought there would be an upward jump here. There was not. So I keep going. I bait. I run. I touch this brick. I watch them fall. Over and over and over. I have been given my lot in life and I have accepted it. I even break these swords to occupy myself and add even a little convenience to my dire situation. But evermore I feel the need to uproot the system that put me here. One day I wake up and I realize that the whole room has been emptied. I'm not sure what came over me, but I had a premonition that running across the bridge right then would cause one to fall off. And it did. It worked twice, as a matter of fact. But deep down I knew that this wasn't meant to be. The map showed me that I had far worse to come. And doubtless far more enemies, because I do remember the ballista section and I don't remember it fondly. I lay down and accept reality. Stormveil proper was just not going to work. It just wasn't. My last remaining hope was the proximal passage that bypasses Stormveil. It was the crack in the cliff face that I barely clung onto, with the void silence growing louder and louder beneath me. It was this route, and this route alone, that was feasible, but I would make it work. I again start off by traversing the bridge, baiting all the Rykards into falling off and swinging around their onslaught of rankers. The sole Rykard on my platform wouldn't go down without a fight, but that too would fall to my patient hand. The process involved a lot of kiting and desperate scrambles to avoid falling off, as well as trying to remain beneath him to avoid most attacks. Of course, I would still be hit by the spurts of diarrhea and skulls, but I had more than enough heals by this point. Then it was the turn of the idle Rykards. One by one, I bait them to fall off, and into the platform for an insanely awkward 1v1. I bought this longbow to aggro them from afar, but I forgot to buy arrows, which is great. Having now taken 3 of them down, not including the bridge swarm, I was on a roll. But this wouldn't last. I accidentally aggro 2 of them at the same time. I tried to kite one of them off, but they both end up falling onto the platform. What I had enacted was the 3rd human ability, throwing. I threw. I fucking threw. I was at my lowest point, and the run was going pretty poorly too. I have literally nowhere else to go. Functionally, the run was completely dead. But the one good thing about being at rock bottom is that things can only get better. Though for that to happen I may have to suffer just a little bit more. First things first, I need to get to Weeping Peninsula. I tried it earlier in the run with mixed results, and may have gotten Jira killed in the process, but I now had at my disposal the 4th human ability, to ignore my problems. By looking down the entire time, I can make my way through Lower Limgrave. Still, there's a healthy dose of crashes and hot CPU cores, but slowly the Bridge of Sacrifice pops up on the horizon. I have to go from the Church of Marika through the Mistwoods, all while avoiding hundreds of Rynkards and while completely blind. To overcome this, I place all of my markers along the main road so that I have some idea of where I'm going before I get slikeyed OP'd. I shit you not. I spent 34 minutes just testing different bonfires before finally just deciding to try the starting area again. That had the least amount of crashes. Whether I was lucky or simply possessed of the utmost skill, the bridge hove into view. Obviously I need to keep my eyes down low to avoid eye contact, lest I explode. To be completely honest, I've gone days without looking anything in the eyes, even though I'm outside all the time. As for the game, yeah, I need to avoid crashing. The bridge itself is insanely cringe, because I have to bait like 5 Rykards out of it before I can even entertain the idea of crossing it. Luckily, some of them are idle, but nonetheless it takes the better part of 20 minutes to finally make it across. I keep my eyes on the ground, and ignore the hallucinations until they go away. And in-game, I save and quit to save my progress before my shit inevitably crashes. For the next part, I essentially just run through with the same idea as before. I place all my markers along the path I need to take with varying degrees of success, with literally every try resulting in both a death and a crash, because I keep looking at what kills me like a damn monkey. There are so many enemies that my game is slowed to a chin crawl. And to make matters worse, there is an ocean underneath the rope bridge that leads to the Church of Marika. The only way my game can survive without crashing is to go from looking down the whole way to looking left the whole way. This totally fucks my flow, and made even worse by the pileup of enemies on my booty cheeks. After another half hour of smashing my nuts with a tenderizer, I get my technique down to a science. A sizable portion of my frontal lobe is filled with stupid, circumstantial puzzles like this that I will only ever solve once. But this is what I live for. I turn my camera to the left just enough to keep my game running, and jump to the rope bridge. I make it. Shit just got very real, very fast. I'd never made it this far, and I'm panicking hard. I can't open my map to place markers, and I can't look up since I risk losing all of my progress if it crashes. With the stakes piling up against me and the constant L's, I absolutely could not sanction fucking up here.
Just keep looking down. Yes!
The next bonfire is a pain in the prostate, but a couple of crashes and blind travel places me on the lowest point of the map. Ironic, since this is the lowest point of the run. You may be asking, viewer, what the fuck am I doing? To that I say fuck you, and also I foreshadowed it in the title of this chapter. What I am after is the trapped chest. Namely, the trapped chest that leads to Leyndell. Certainly, it only goes to the Divine Bridge, which is disconnected from Leyndell until you get there, but that's where you're wrong. I won't spoil it just yet, but let that sit in the back of your mind for now. For the next hour, I will be trying to make it into the fort. This fort that has roughly 3 quadrillion enemies fortifying it. I crash as soon as I look up, that's a given. It also crashes if I look behind me, but after a certain point, it crashes when I look down. Over, and over, and over. And over, and over, and over, over and over and over. If the game doesn't crash, I die and then it crashes. Sometimes the game straight up fails to load. Eventually I learn a very specific camera placement that allows me to run up the hill while being able to see, instead of using markers. In the midst of all this, my controller also broke, so to add the proverbial corn kernel on top of my pile of shit, I have to use mouse and keyboard. Not just any keyboard, but this shitty €20 keyboard that I bought in Tesco because my idiot cat spilled water on my good one. Suffice to say I was homicidally dangerous, and had to be locked in my room to keep the neighborhood safe. And I'm not quite sure why I haven't been doing this until now, but I've been neglecting probably the mightiest tool at my disposal. No, actually, no. The second mightiest tool, after kill boxes, of course. In From Software games, reloading your game resets the enemy AI into positions. In my case, unfortunately, it resets HP as well. But it's the one thing that can counter the Rancor skulls most of the time, and that's all I needed. At first I ran a couple 100 meters, then quit out. Then I would run 10 meters, then only a few. Then possibly a single step. Then I would be stuck between quitouts. Another hour of this angle of attack was spent here, over and over. Sometimes I would make it in, and it would crash, or I would die, but on this try I made it to the ladder. Not only that, but I was able to climb it, and made it to the second floor. I barely survived the slew of rancors, being saved by constant quitouts, but I was stuck. For about 10 minutes I stood on the ladder, biding my time and waiting for the Rykard above me to jump, so I could reposition. I couldn't tolerate defeat. I've been dealt a shitty hand, but I will wash it off. I get knocked back down. I nearly die, but I will not let the entitled keep me down any longer. But then, tragically,
Yes!
why did I do this? It's simple, really. As stated before, FromSoft games have an interesting quitout function. That's not all it does, though. If, for example, you travel to a different area, and force quit at the right time, you will be transported to the beginning of said area. So if I were to, say, travel to Margit's bonfire from the Divine Bridge and quit out right as I loaded in, I would instead be brought to the beginning of Leyndell. This is not easy to do. To give myself a slight edge, I travel to Castleward Tunnel, because it has a slightly longer loading time. I have to Alt F4 right as the bar reaches here. Too early and I spawn back at Divine Bridge. Too late and I spawn in Stormveil. The glitch tolerates roughly only 10 milliseconds of discrepancy. Now watch me get it first try.
Oh my god!
To put this in perspective, Stormveil, Calid, Leyndell, Altus, everything is now behind me. The comeback here is so monumental that my first and second boss would be Morgott. And while I'm still pretty much at rock bottom, it has improved very slightly. and under dire circumstances I can still thrive, no matter which crab pulls me back into the bucket. However, there is no immediate bonfire. It's around the corner. And to get there I will need to get past 2 entire Rykards, both of which have been scaled up multiple tiers. In my Tree Balls video I talk about tier scaling, which went up to 5. I'm fairly certain that there are also 5 here. Limgrave is 1, Liurnia is 2, Calid is 3, Altus is 4, and everything after that is 5. These ones are 3 tiers higher than my usual foes. I try to escape through the back entrance, but I need great runes to open the seal. Yeah, fuck my life. The only way to progress is by wrong warping to Leyndell, which is stupid and confusing, and then making it past 2 Rykards who both aggro simultaneously. It goes without saying that even with a quit out and fighting one at a time, it is a tough offer. My weapon hasn't even been upgraded yet, and I am level 34. I try doing quit outs, and waiting for each Rykard to do an ass crash. The first Rykard is easy enough to get past, but the second one is stuck in the archway. And the only way to get him out is by looking away and unloading the collision. I am so close. I am this close to achieving greatness, but it just isn't meant to be. Is what a coward would say. By my estimations, each Rykard has 12,000 HP, and I do 1,000 damage per hit. That's 240 attacks total. Oh yeah, and they one-shot me with every single attack. The scaling was a stupid idea, sure, but only leveling strength has left me with literally no HP, and I have not picked up a single talisman yet. If you're wondering why I haven't tried any dungeons yet for somber smithing stones, you're probably really stupid. But I digress. If I want to beat this, I need to get stronger. Both myself and my in-game avatar. To start, I spend about 30 minutes poking Grail to death for an easy 80k souls, which I then use to buy a fuckload of arrows at the Peninsula Merchant. I then go to the Church of Ella to buy a fuckload of bolts. With some difficulty, I throw myself a beach episode to secure the savior of this run, the short bow. The only bow in the entire game that I can use with 0 dex. I use the remaining souls to buy Rings of Sacrifice and Serpent Arrows, having learned from Tree Balls that it's projectile variety that matters most when it comes to beating this kind of meat. My smithing stone variety is piss poor, so I will have to make do with a +1 bow for now. The thing with Serpent Arrows is that they do poison damage, which is percentage based, meaning they do a sizable chunk of Rykard's HP with a single proc. On top of that, I can save on arrows by aiming for the neck and head, because it not only procs easier but does more damage, and stats damage per arrow. I spend so fucking long just doing this. Wrong warp to Leyndell, which goes wrong half the time. Then spawn in and reload. Aggro the first Rykard, spam his face with poison arrows and then spam him with normal arrows, and then somehow die to random and inconsistent bullshit. I am safe from any attack while underneath, most of the time. I can predict the arc of rankers, most of the time. Whatever. What I am missing right now is the mental fortitude to keep going under DRS. At some point I find myself very close to killing the first Rykard. Shit, I might even kill him. Oh wow. I just killed him. Wait, now what? Well, I stick to my initial plan, which was to eliminate one and squeeze past the other. This is stupid in hindsight, but it all worked out, because all I had to do was bait him out, bait a jumping attack, and then save and quit once I get past. All I have to do is to get past. I'm not out of this fight just yet. What I was missing there was arrow variety, which still exists. I go to the western part of the swamp to purchase some fire arrows, but wait, how the heck did I get this many souls? I got these in the aforementioned best farming spot in the game, the Calid Divine Tower. For some reason each of these Rykards is worth like 8,000 souls. Even better, for some reason they all like to swan dive off the edge once aggroed with a single arrow. I am turning 40 souls into 40,000 souls. I should relapse into my problem gambling. Now equipped with a couple more levels of strength and 100 more arrows, I am ready to confront the object of my ire. For the next 10 minutes, I whittle this poor idiot down to size, to make him fit better once he penetrates me. Serpent arrows for poison, regular arrows to start me off. With relative ease, the first one goes down. Now out of standard arrows, I bust out the fire arrows. It goes well, really well in fact, but out of nowhere I find myself completely empty. This is fine. I can just finish him off with my crappy but trustworthy partisan. Trouble is he's in phase 2, which is miles more problematic than his phase 1 when fighting from afar. Up close is no problem, but in phase 2 he doubles his moveset and can fire 2 Ranker Skulls at a time, and even stack them. But I have learned his moveset by now, and I pick my chances only when it is completely safe to do so. For example, the triple stab and the Taker's Flame. The double swipe becomes unsafe during phase 2, along with most other attacks due to the potential of the snake follow-up. I honestly don't know how that happened, and I never will, because it never happened ever again. To avoid being pressed like that again though, I need more bullets, and I need more guns. I farm some more and buy the light crossbow from the bridge merchant. With this, I have 100 more projectiles with which to do my bidding. I also get some kukris. I had no idea at the time, but they do absolutely insane damage. But I completely forget about their existence until the end of the video. So then, away I go. They're dead, I think. Yeah, sure looks like it. I should mention the fact that the reason the entire video has been slightly zoomed in is because I did a lot of this run in a Discord call, and everyone in it appears in the top left. Anyway, there's a single idle Rykard waiting for me to go get the bonfire. What I should do is slowly walk past, wait for the right opportunity, and then dodge attacks. Maybe I should even bait him into falling off. So I book it. The past 6 hours have been nothing but epididymitis. Stormveil led nowhere. Calid was a bust. This is literally all I have going for me right now. It all comes down to this.
Oh.
And then it crashed. So after being treated for a ruptured cerebellar aneurysm, I go again. Now, it wouldn't be out of character to mess up this close to victory, right? Yeah, it wouldn't be. But everyone gets a retcon one day or another. Stormveil, Leyndell, Calid, Altus. The majority of the game has been skipped.
Oh man, oh, I'm gonna have a heart attack.
I'm gonna be real. This run was so awful that I wanted to leave it here and pick it back up another time. I also wanted to keep going. I didn't want an in-between because of the fifth human ability of meaningless categorization. With that in mind, I cast a poll onto my community page for either a two-parter or the big one. As can be seen by the fact that we are only halfway through the video, the big one won by a fucking landslide. So the next day, I confronted Leyndell. I am now level 61, which is still just poverty, but maybe it's my fault, because my friend asked if I had been playing on the highest quality settings. I don't know why I never considered the fact that maybe this was making my game crash every few seconds. Lo and behold, my game now runs at 144 Hz, which isn't really visible in the recording, but I'm just pointing out how ignorant I am. Anyway, my goal is to make it to the main road of Leyndell, where I will find probably the only safe bonfire for the whole level. To get there, I need to make it to the ground, and to make it to the ground, I have to navigate rooftops, labyrinthian rooms, and 100 million Jormungandrs. First in my way is this piece of shit who just refuses to die. I try poking him to death, which doesn't work. I try unloading collision to make him fall, which doesn't work. I try baiting a backward jump, which doesn't work. I think there's some invisible wall or something. He then proceeds to bait me to the staircase, which causes my game to crash. I'm sure it would have done so much sooner had I not lowered the graphics, but this still causes me to burst into tears. To make matters worse, I have 0 save spots and every single attack one-shots me. You can see me blocking here, but that only works for melee attacks. Ever since the traumatic experience in Stormveil, I've been weighing the idea of unrandomizing just for a small bit. A bit like how I basically played Dark Souls 2 normally, because that game deserves no kindness. But Elden Ring, even with its similarities to DS2, does not deserve that sort of disrespect. I'm totally fine with quitouts though. The first Rykard has to jump, be it forward, backward, or in place, so that I can make it down the stairs and reload. This causes the Rykard right next to me to despawn, which is a strange but very welcome anomaly. The one after this has to be shot, and then lured off the edge to his doom, so that I can make it past the next one, cutting out constantly along the way to reset the ranker skulls. This was my first attempt at doing this entire sequence, and not only will it not be my last, it will never go this well or swiftly ever again. The first Rykard relies on RNG to survive, as does the second, and the third, and the fourth can fuck off entirely. 20 minutes of attempts later, I make it back to the same spot. I make it past the fourth Rykard and down the side stairs. Somehow I murdered somebody in my sleep, which I think was the gargoyle. I don't know if it respawns or not, but that wouldn't make a damn difference now, would it? Right by the doorway that leads to Lower Leyndell, there are so many enemies that my frames drop even with the low graphics. I can even see the damn door, but it becomes obscured and obstructed by some freak who is late to every respawn. I quit out again, and consult a map. This map, in fact. And this map matter-of-factly lays out just how impossible that doorway would be. But I can jump off the side and land safely on the rooftops. Of course, that would spawn a whole host of other problems and doubtless crash my game. But it was all I had. I plan out the route in my head and practice the movements I need to make. I would need nothing less than perfection to survive the fall and traverse the rooftops, all while quitting out with keyboard and mouse, which is very fun. The command over my digits that I possess, though, is nothing less than perfection. That was the best I had to offer after being here for over an hour. Literally zero progress, even though my knowledge expands, ever growing. For the next hour I chance my hand at the very limited variety of options, none of which ever work, all of which require me to undergo slot machine-esque gameplay every time I die, every time I get the wrong animation, for every enemy I encounter. I even try to kill every enemy for an entire attempt, which fails after a riveting half hour and 2 entire kills out of like 10, just to make it to either the doorway or the rooftops. It gets so desperate that I try to invent parkour skips before the level even starts, which obviously doesn't work, and even if they did, they would accomplish nothing. I wasn't sure if I should be pulling down the crabs around me or blame the ones who are on top of it. It gets so bad that I even go back to Stormveil, which was somehow less painful than the current brick wall. Then a horrible idea crawls its way back into my mind. At first, it was a whisper, then it begins to itch. Before I know it, it's licking my eardrums and chewing on my amygdala. To overcome a brick wall, I need to be even more bricked up. It was time to defeat the Leyndell passage. My training arc culminated in me defeating the Leyndell bouncers with my enormous arsenal, and my power was now so immense that I could deal with essentially any situation. Even my skill has improved, and honestly, what more could I have needed? It was time to make a difference in this world. I crossed the bridge and immediately get to work. I fell the first Rykard so quickly that there are still rankers flying around from the bridge guys. But they won't fall off, so I quit out to reset them. I carefully choose the best Rykards to aggro with my bow, to bait 2 into falling off the edge while one gets forced into a 1v1 with me, who obviously creams him. One at a time I use their hubris against them, and tread on each and every snake, avoiding their tax exemptions and laundering schemes. Avoiding the ranker skulls has become basically second nature, and by now this subconscious process takes up more space in my cerebellum than automatic breathing. I climb higher and higher, baiting each one to either fall to their death or fall onto me, also to their death. Like with the Margit Arena, I have to touch specific aggro geometry to get them to move forwards and slip off. At some point though, they stop falling off, and unloading geometry doesn't make them phase through the map. This one will have to be killed using poison and standard arrows, and the underdog's cunning. However, I've been taking damage the entire time, due to the awkwardness of the area I've chosen, and the fight with this one brings me down to a single heal. It has been 30 minutes at this point, and I will not tolerate defeat. Not here. I move up, and bait the next one, tapping his head hundreds of times to maximize damage. I get complacent for half a second and get roasted in the ass by a ranker skull, bringing my heals to 0. I beat him, but I still have no idea what awaits me. I consulted a map to ping roughly where I had to go, but honestly, it wouldn't be helping shit. Fuck this. I'm not getting any closer, and fortune tends to favor the bold. I lure one down and poison him with the last of my poison bullets. I decide to fight him in an open area to maximize opportunities for Serpent Hunter attacks, and holy shit, he just jumped off the edge. He tries to claw his way back up, but he slips, and dies. I can only see one more after this. I am out of heals, out of bullets, and the adrenaline is beginning to ooze out of my whitened knuckles. I see an opening, and I take it.
Please, please. Let's fucking go.
I made it. I made it. Leyndell, and therefore the rest of the game is now at my fingertips. Though that isn't why I'm here. I'll reveal my motives once I secure the means to enact them. For now, I try seeing if I can go through Godric's back door, but he has a plug up there. I guess I'll get the other great runes somehow. Maybe. I'm not a huge fan of Leyndell, but I am beyond grateful for its openness right now, since I can move around with freedom. I see Raya and consider employing her in my wire fraud, but spare her once I see the ranker skulls emerge from the canopies. I secure a bonfire by this vulgar man and try going for the map for convenience's sake. It works, but only for the middle of Leyndell, because fuck everything. The other one that shows the edges is completely inaccessible, meaning I'll have to make do with the dumbest looking map ever. Onwards to my reason of being here in the first place. The Erdtree avatar holds something of great interest. Unfortunately, it is surrounded by an abundance of enemies that do their best to give me a mental breakdown. I spent fucking ages trying to take potshots through the crowd, but it clearly is a shoddy idea. Instead, I use the most powerful weapon at my disposal, which works beautifully. This boss drops the Ruptured Crystal Tear, which causes you to explode after 3 seconds for reasons beyond my understanding. It has another function though. After a day's worth of this agonizing challenge, half of which has been loading screens and crashes, I made it to Leyndell. I actually made it this time. Like, I have a permanent bonfire in the heart of the capital. The other bonfire will never be used again. I will never have to acquire Great Runes, and for the first time since the run started, my situation just improved. But I'm stuck here. The door doesn't open from this side. Just kidding, there's a lever right there. I need to be extremely careful so as to not crash my game, but I am granted a slightly closer bonfire in the Firelink Shrine. Trash hub, by the way. I need to be careful traversing these branches, but Bawatlam Aveh Makanta Tashe uneasy compared to every single other level in this game because each Rykard is desperate to jump to their demise. It took a while, granted, but I get to the top with only a single fuck up. There may be no bonfire, but I get a stink of Marika instead. This is my first legit boss since Margit, at the beginning of the run. More than half of this video so far has just been suffering and stagnation. Endless pain, where my lowest points seem to just keep descending into suffocating madness. Rykard is super easy by now, but I can't see the guy in this cramped ass arena, so forgive me for sucking donkey balls. I forgot that I'm not supposed to use my bow, I'm only allowed to use the Serpent Hunter, as if it matters at this point. This try was going pretty well, because I finally learned that the Serpent Hunter's follow-up special attack does absolutely insane damage. I'm sure it's still shit when not in a boss arena, but this is just sauce. And if any of you doubted the sheer power of making myself swale over this run, just behold the power of living like a projectile.
Wait, what? Did I fucking get it?
I've always been saying that life would be better if lived as forcefully as possible.
I knew that would fucking happen.
Next up is Morgott. And yeah, I got pretty lucky with the last boss, so he is not the easiest thing in the world. What I wanted was for that to be the case, and let's be real. I do need a fat upgrade. This guy deserves to be utterly clarted to hell and back. I nab the available Somber Stones and get my shit to +6, nearly doubling my damage, and smearing this ugly fucker between the tiles like the grouter that I am. Traders' Union always prevails. I celebrate while I can, but Leyndell is not quite over just yet, since I need to flee to the Forbidden Lands next. The way out lies near the beginning of the level, just underneath where I'd been suffering for hours initially. I do crash a few times on the way to the roadside bonfire. Clearly, this isn't safe by any means, and neither is the main road, or the houses beside it, or the sewers, or the rooftops. You know, I think Leyndell fucking sucks right now. Thankfully, opening the door is only a slight bother, but I start shitting with the utmost power when I see what's next. Out of rage more so than fear. I only need 3 total quitouts for the whole ordeal to the elevator. One by the main door, one just by the stairs, and another for when I'm allowed past when the Rykards jump. That's the ideal scenario anyway, because sometimes it's more like 10. This is child's play compared to the bridge section though. I try bolting through the first time I make it, but that clearly was a terrible idea. So I run to the door, quit out, stairs, quit out. Fuck, he didn't do it right. So I quit out again. Nice, I made it and I fucking died. 1,000 years of agony leads to this current situation. Praise be the fact that they are idle, even when I attack them. So long as I remain a certain distance away, I use the Serpent Arrow trick like before and stick the discount Grunbeld onto my Lathe of Doom until there are now only 2 of the bastards blocking the door. The trouble here is that every time I reload, one of them goes back to being stuck inside the doorway like an idiot. I must remind you that I barely had enough firepower for 2 of these guys from up close, and I was very far away. The other is then forced in front of him, meaning I can't simply use quitouts. I didn't know this. In my confusion, I try aggroing one of them to the far end of the bridge so that I could solo him, or solo the other. I wasn't entirely sure at the time, but the 6th human ability of getting flustered like a fool takes hold of my sanity, and after getting pinned in place, panic roll to death. Fuck. So I went on to recreate this horrendous routine until my teeth fell out, when suddenly, In one of my tries, the guy on the right randomly falls off. I didn't record this because I thought this part would be really boring, and I was running out of storage on my SSDs. Anyway, I have just enough firepower to destroy the closer Rykard, and go for the roll under the second. Allow me to remind you that I am one shot to every attack. I get passed by the skin of my taint, and go to confront a secret fourth Rykard, who perfectly blocks the width of the bridge. But he pulls out a Ranker Skull just to ruin my life. I barely managed to jump over this wall, and run like my life fucking depends on it. The Forbidden Lands is the worst area in this game. Though likely playing into the game's lore adds nothing, is nothing, will always be nothing. This is my daily mantra. It takes some gentle encouragement of the forced base jumping variety to inch my way through. It's remarkably easy to get them to fall off on their own, but the fog makes it remarkably easy to die to Ranker Skulls from a random direction. Of course, quit-outs galore, and I dash past the Black Blade Rykard to the Grand Lift of Ronald. If the viewer possesses any forethought whatsoever, they would have predicted that the mountaintops would be by far the easiest area to traverse, due to its openness. And they would be absolutely right. It's a bit strange looking alright, but the transient Rykards of Sahur Ruins do no harm at all. I die a couple times to stupid shit, and I'm reminded that I'm still just as mortal when sitting at bonfires, and my PC is just as destructible when it's shitting its bricks. The long bridge section would likely have taken up another 10 minutes of screen time had I not gotten past it on the first try like the thoroughbred Sigma that I am. It was a well-earned DOS after all the bullshit I endured. The home stretch is now within reach. I pass by some more transient Rykards, pick up a useless sacred tear, and stupidly die right next to a bonfire because I was distracted by the poor framerate, and we make it to Fire Giant. This was going to be rather easy due to the slight incline that totally neuters Rykard's moveset, but nothing could have accounted for this happening.
What's this?
Wait, what the fuck? Huh?
This is something, isn't it?
Well, this is cool.
Yeah.
I think you might be fucked.
What the fuck is this?
Don't-
What the fuck? Why the fuck? So, okay, noted. Don't go on torrent.
I tried to knock him off in retaliation of such a transgression, but learned that there is a big-ass invisible wall preventing it. Oh well. On to the next area. Crumbling Farum was traumatizing. I have a total of 6 hours of footage just from this area, which is even more than I have of Stormveil. Between each bonfire was a myriad of puzzles and a whole trove of psychological damage, but I had to remain steadfast. It took everything I had to not give up so far into the run. Up first was the very first hallway. There must be a dozen enemies squeezed into a single room, and for what it's worth, I don't care that they have fun in their geriatric years, I just want no part of it, and I really need to shit. I try rolling and reloading with no dice. When I try to kill one, I find out that they are tier 5 scaled, the first ones. 15,000 HP, so I barely have enough power to kill just a single one. I'm not sure why only a difference of 3,000 HP between tiers makes it that much worse, but I was already a dense mix of bored and turning my blood black. The best I could do was to eliminate a single Rykard before spending like 5 minutes repeatedly quitting and reloading to make it through the first fucking door. This evil menacing ass prick threatened to send me back to spawn if I slipped up even once, with even the melee attacks probably killing me in a single blow now. I was this close to burying hundreds of sewing needles in the grass at the local park. To everyone's benefit, I secured the next bonfire. The second checkpoint offered a slightly more sane but still aggravating pair of rooms where I first had to time a jump over this guy's tail and then spam quit-outs in the hall. Need I remind you that each quit-out takes like 40 seconds? Utterly blind to my surroundings and coming extremely close to a complete neurotic spiral, I wake up a couple minutes later having acquired the third checkpoint. Almost every Rykard here can simply be shot and lured off the edge to their deaths. Almost all of them, but I expect no kindness anymore. Side note, my up to now subconscious manipulation of the Ranker Skulls has been severely impacted. I used mostly sound effects to swing them around, but in comes this Dragon Nado to ruin the one thing I was good at. I digress. I proceed by timing a jump between the necks of the two Rykards who refused to move and quit out spam to the next bonfire. And then there was Godskin Duo. I mean, the fourth checkpoint is really the main antagonist as of right now, but so was the boss fight. To start, there is an awesome wienerhead blocking the passage completely with his enormous gyat, and I can't jump high enough to let me past because of the low ceiling. I mean, I can 1v1 the guy and it isn't that hard, it's just that there's another right after the hallway. Wait, no, that comes later because he's been programmed to patrol back and forth like the enemy he replaced. On to the fight itself.
What's wrong with you? Why are you blue?
This shit is super easy because there's only one Rykard present and it is technically only a single phase. Except, it somehow still is Godskin Duo. Let's call them the Foreskin Duo, due to their phallic persuasion and because this dickhead decides to swipe me through the wall, right as I was about to win. He's outside the arena, so who knows how he aggroed. What matters is that he is. Oh yeah, and the main entrance somehow doesn't work anymore, because who cares anymore? Cool. So here is the solution. I break apart my window and eat the shards of glass until my stomach starts feeling funny. I wait for the first guy to patrol up to me, and I bait him into doing a backflip off the cliff. Jump over the next guy's head, and wait for the last guy to patrol to the left so I can run downstairs. Quit outs in case of emergency. The way I'm saying this makes it sound like a guide, but who am I kidding? Nobody is doing this shit after seeing this. I then spend the entire fight in the back right corner, which obviously never fucking works because the guy outside the arena gets aggroed regardless of what I do. To be completely honest, I only won when I did because of RNG. With that out of the way, I acquire the 5th checkpoint. A part of my soul still exists somewhere here, having been separated and in all likelihood killed to death. There are an absolutely insane amount of Rykards here. Most of them can fall off quite easily, with some wireless poking, but some require the old-fashioned way. Thankfully, they remain idle. I tried kick-flipping past them at first, but that would never have worked in a million years. I tried killing some and then running past, but yeah, I was forced to kill each and every one. So in our bloodlust, we meandered our way past a point that prevents us from returning. Fuck you, Miyazaki, for even making this possible. Or George Martin, I'm not sure which one of them designed the game. I killed the last few in the immediate area and consult another map, which doesn't help me at all because Crumbling Farum is kind of a mess. To my luck, one of them blocking my path randomly falls through the map, which I'm never able to recreate. Yeah, I do have to do this again, but when? Instead of wasting my life anymore, I decide to waste my life some more and deploy the 7th human ability and walk through this hallway because the guy patrolling has slithered away. I quit out just in case, of course, and I am at this point shitting myself profusely because I have drawn the ire of the 0.1%, encroaching upon their territory with my vile workers' rights. I'm too stupid and panicky to figure out how to bait them off. For now, my best option was to find the nearest bonfire and rest at it before anything else goes wrong. In this hallway, the distant howls of the rancor skulls become ever closer, meaning they are inside the walls, and will fry me with their awful hitboxes and space lasers. Or am I just hearing things at this point? Either way, I quit out again because affirming hallucinations is always the best way to go about it. I've been shitting for 10 minutes straight now and there are no signs of stopping because I really have no clue where I'm going. Then I find it. The 6th checkpoint. And as per the map, the last one for a very, very long time. Usually this is no bother because it's filled with a couple of eagles and some good-for-nothings, and a dragon I think. But I have something else going on. The first platform is simple enough. Bait both Rykards into jumping off the edge. Then it's a bit weirder, because I have to juggle multiple rancor skulls in order to bait like 5 Rykards off the edge, from up close and from the bridge. After that point, it gets really rough. This entire dirt platform has an invisible wall that prevents enemies from falling off, which is great. I forgot to record myself getting Serpent Hunter to +9 during the Godskin Duo fiasco, but it really did not help shit at this time. The Ancient Dragon never respawns again, but that is a single enemy for what is now a 20-minute ordeal to get halfway to the next bonfire. Less, actually, because it's what comes next that makes me totally lose my shit and turn into a celestial object. This is where I spent 4 of the 6 hours in Crumbling Farum. Not everything I have done so far, and not these 5 bastards who fully block me and repeatedly smush me. But what comes now? The first time I got here, I murdered the 5 bastards who fully blocked me and repeatedly smushed me. And other than this precarious jump, it seems pretty devoid for now. Hold on now. You just haven't seen the inside. Not only are there 5 in here, but 2 of them are completely stuck in the entry and exit doorways. Granted, the first one is sticking out, but killing him would be a tall order. The one thing I had going on was this weird bug that made Rykard enter his falling animation whenever I looked away. I think this is caused by the collision degrading and him being moved upward, then falling when I look back. Anyway, I spent like 10 fucking minutes shooting this guy because I do at most 30 damage per bullet. and it takes over 20 poison arrow headshots to proc the poison once. With him dead, I see what the crack is in the interior. Yeah, this sure was something alright. Fuck it bro, I am completely out of arrows and sanity, so the only thing I can do here is vor myself and spam quitouts, and that's where I discover the other Rykard blocking the exit doorway. Not only that, but he's idle, meaning he has to go through his wake-up animation after all the others, meaning I'd be praying for 4 Rykards to all do the Rancor Skull attack to buy me some time, and for only this one to jump. I don't quite know the odds of that happening, but let's just say they're low. And even if I could manage that, I didn't know this at the time, so I waited until it was too late to quit out again, sullying what was my only successful attempt in over an hour of this checkpoint. So I enter my investigative phase. I discover a bonfire right next to Godskin Duo, meaning I suffered pretty badly for no reason at all. A running theme for this run. I inspect the location of the bonfire I was going for and what will now be known as the elevator room, and this being the elevator room incident. I had also run out of projectiles after all that and went to restock, nearly killing one of my vendors in the process and nearly bricking the save entirely. Upon returning to that spot from just before, I noticed that there is a connecting tissue between the Great Bridge and what looks to be another area I haven't been to yet. I won't go over it in detail, but I went on to perfect this checkpoint by standing by these stairs and looking away to deload collision and knock every single Rykard off, followed by jumping on this sconce and running past. I didn't have to quit out here because I knew everything to be idle. That connecting tissue I felt like had to be over here somehow. I do the same thing here by aggroing and then looking away until upstairs was almost empty. After a stupid and aggravating 1v1 with this guy through the walls, I am free to inspect my surroundings. It was half expected, and I could have benefited from looking at a guide or something, but the way to get there is not here. I then see that the tower by my current checkpoint looks like it goes over there, so I roll off and go up the elevator, luring this guy off while juggling Rancor Skulls. And I see it. I remember the way to get to the bridge goes from right over there, and I just need to parkour. Wait, did Miyazaki fucking block this? Miyazaki fucking punished me for exploring his game. Why? Not only that, but you can't even parkour on this lip anyway. I then look up a walkthrough and see that while yes, what I was looking for led to the bridge, it is only accessible from that side. So I'm brought back to the first idea. I can poke this one guy and squeeze through, saving myself a modicum of suffering. The main issue in my mind was the guy blocking the exit to the elevator, and through some cosmic fortune, he is the only one sticking out of the building. Though shooting him from the other side is a much better option, damage-wise, it's worse in every other way. With one of those ways being that I can't hear the Rancor Skulls over the big-ass Dragon NATO. So I elect to stop recording between attempts, because I was really running low on space now. That is until I discover what I thought was an utterly impossible feat, due to the nature of Rykard's moveset. I had found a true safe spot. I talk about these in the Tree Balls videos, and they are basically a rough XYZ coordinate that makes me functionally immortal, not having to actively avoid any enemy attacks. This works only in this spot, because of the way the Rancor Skulls are deployed. It's at the perfect height and distance to be launched right over my head, and, without me moving at all, be spun around me and made completely useless, like I had been doing manually the whole game, until they dissipate. This spot also just so happens to be in the optimal position from which to let loose on the serpent, which is how I discovered it in the first place. That's the thing though, I only have just enough for one Rykard, because of the tier 5 scaling, and there are 2 blocking me fully. This means that while one goes down easy, I have to kill the other with melee. Though again, this is simple enough. I haven't taken a single bit of damage on this attempt because I've gotten really good at avoiding attacks, even while completely blind like I am here. What's working with me is the slight declination, letting me avoid most attacks anyway, but this also works against me for when I want to hit back. But that works just fine for me. All I have to do is wait for him to spew Rancor Skulls and I can wail on his head for double damage, and avoid the skulls like I have been for the last 40 hours of this ordeal, about 20 hours of which actually counted for game time. And as for the Taker's flames, over, and over, and over, and over, and over. I couldn't escape it. For hours on end, I grinded this. Sometimes I would consider unrandomizing entirely. I would periodically leave to restock, and sometimes I would try to get more arrow types, like this incident where through great hardship I made it to Rail Icaria from Magic Bolts, and did like 20 quit outs in a row, only to die halfway down the bridge because there are more smelly old snakes per square meter here than at my own town hall meeting, and I would go back to suffer some more and learn nothing. Either because I was cognitively fried or because there was nothing to learn. I didn't know, and I didn't care. The system is broken. Subservience is the standard. The powerful keep gaining. War and subjugation are what makes us monkeys, and also because it makes money. But it isn't broken, not even close. The system is perfect. It's a well-oiled meat grinder that turns tarnished into runes for the demigods, while those without grace are made to fight for the scraps. The system for vassals of the greater will is working exactly as intended, and there's a good chance you're on the receiving end of it. If I give up now, if I withdraw my emotions, my thoughts, I won't get hurt. If I retreat into my little circle in the sand, I won't have to deal with whatever happens on the outside. It's all just so unfair. I mean, what would be wrong with unrandomizing just for this one room? I won't unrandomize. I can't unrandomize. I have to break through the brick wall. Fuck, I'll eat through it if I have to. But it's getting done one way or another. The intelligent among you may have noticed that my damage suddenly quintupled between attempts, and the reason for that is because my bow went from +1 to +25. How did I do this? You do not want to know. Seriously, I don't even remember doing it. It was that bad. But all it had to be was better than the alternative. Whatever. Let's finish this fucking challenge. Yeah, the easiest way to deal with dire circumstances is to withdraw investment. You can't be hurt if you don't care, and no feelings are easier to deal with than strong ones, even if they're good. But the repercussions of isolation are always worse than whatever you are isolating from. Being born into such a vast world makes it hard to care, unless of course your goal is to take part in the rat race. What the soul needs is passion. What the mind needs is to be surrounded by people that like it. And the body needs 600 IU of vitamin D per day. Thanks for watching. Read this comic. And fuck you. Part 2 coming never.